Good evening, everyone. Baloghiarov. And thank you very much, Age and Opportunity and Catherine, for inviting me on this very distinguished 3 John panel. I really am very chuffed to be among the blessed, shall we say. How shall I begin? Well, I'd like to begin with something that happened about nearly 9 months ago. I was at a meeting in the Mansion House, not the Mansion House, the City Hall, and it was in connection with the Dublin City of Literature. And we had a very good panel on looking at writing, and particularly women's writing. And then at the very end of it, a question was asked from the floor. Would any member of the panel care to speak about church-state relationships? And there was an appalled silence. We had to move quickly from literature, to the reality. It was just after the 2 reports. So it was interesting because I took the microphone and I just did 3 small sentences, and I only hoped that nobody would want me to expand on them. I said, it's over. They're finished. And we are liberated. I was very shocked by myself. That this was what came from my depths. So what did I mean? I've been thinking about it for the last 9 months. And it seems to me that what I really meant by it is that the formal church-state relationship, which developed even before the beginning of our state and became so intricately bound together so that the Catholic Church authorities in particular and the central and local governments really lived in each other's ears for many decades. The church had charge of the schools, the hospitals, the orphanages. The state gave the money, very often inadequately, but they played the same game together. And it wasn't a game, it was very serious, particularly for those who were working in the hospitals and in the schools, and particularly in the national schools. The Murphy Report, you might say, wrote the obsequies of that church-state relationship. Archbishop Martin, I believe, our own Archbishop here in Dublin, I think he's the new model of a church meeting the state. He's formal, he keeps the parameters, he doesn't go frequently or be seen frequently, or the politicians don't be seen frequently talking to him. And I think something new is emerging. But you see, I think too that brings its own challenges to us, because we can no longer appeal to canon law. So what happens? We all go to the forecourts. So law has become a god in our society. And that bothers me, that we have to find the solution in civil law. And again, you have to say, have we defined ourselves, the civil community in Ireland? Have we defined a via media? And can we older people who experience the richness of a life that was lived, if you like, under the comfortable presence of church-state relationships that solved a lot of our problems, and now have moved and seen our children and our grandchildren faced with challenges that we could never imagine, can we offer them a via media? Can we offer them, some aspects of solving problems that do not need a kind of a legal solution, either in the forecourts or higher in the Supreme Court, that affects our constitution? So really the challenge for us, I think, is how do we reconstruct the founding aspirations of our state? It is our state. We made it. We lived in it. We gave our taxes to it. We gave our talents. Some of us chose not to emigrate. We made the choice to stay in a country and work for it. So I agree with John when he reminded us that we did have this aspiration, cherish all the children of the nation equally. We did have it. But did we really add in the clause that we should cherish all the children of the nation fairly? And did we in some way, collude with the development of a two-tier state in the way that we ran our schools, fee-paying schools, free schools, national schools, private schools, just to anticipate and challenge maybe one of the Johns who's to follow me here. So, cherish all the children of the nation equally also means fairly. And John was right, John Lonergan, when he said that he saw that idea of the children as bigger than children. In the future, it may be the very, very old and feeble who live beyond their powers and who live beyond their mental powers. And I'm talking to a group tonight, who understand that it's quite possible that we may lose our vigorous mental powers in serene old age, and then, we need to be cherished not only equally, but fairly. I suppose recession obliges us to reforge, I suppose, that's the word I was trying to think of, to reforge our notions of equality and to look critically at that hidden class structure of our society. And I suppose what really binds us at this time is something very interesting indeed. It's that new emerging middle class that Kathy Sheridan spoke about a few weeks, or wrote about a few weeks ago in the Irish Times, so thoughtfully. Is it going to be like the American model of home ownership? I remember when Clinton was bidding for presidentship in 1992, he always spoke about the middle classes. And I asked an American, I happened to be teaching at the time, I said, why does he always speak about the middle classes? He said, there are no working classes in America. We all aspire to be homeowners. So is that what we're tending towards? A middle class where everybody's a homeowner? Or can we go the European way, which is controlled rents and leases for apartments and shops that are controlled by local government or by central government, and where it's natural that you move maybe from one kind of an apartment to another, as they do in Denmark, so that you're never worried about mortgages. That is the European way. John Lonergan said we need values. And I want just to draw your attention to one type of value that we don't often speak about. What spiritual values do we want to reforge? Spiritual values that are outside church structures. There is, of course, our wealth of literature, our music, including our traditional music, our great wealth of paintings. Art's task, and Seamus Heaney has said this so often and in so many different ways, art's task is closely allied to that of religion. We have become used, particularly those of us who are older, we have become used to thinking that religion should provide us with answers, with information. For example, at the age of 7, preparing for communion in the Catholic Church, or for confirmation in the Church of Ireland, is there a God? Why should the Catechism have to tell us why we should answer that? How did the world come into being? Our catechisms were written 2 centuries ago, at the beginning of modern times, when the anxiety over evolution and the whole post-French Revolution world of the 19th century Enlightenment required answers to those questions. And if you go back to the poetry of that period, you will find that many of the poets, like Tennyson, were tortured trying to answer that question for religion. But You know, like art, religion is there to help us to live creatively, peacefully, and even joyously, with realities that really have no explanation, and with problems that really we cannot solve. Mortality, pain, grief, despair, outrage at the injustices and the brutalities of life. Why should we expect to find the explanations of those in religion? Religion is, like art, to help us to gain the serenity and to gain the vigor to deal with these questions. And it seems to me that, in a way, you know, particularly with elections in the air, that we need thoughtfully to dialogue with those who want a secular society in Ireland. And we have to remind them, you know, that they have to explain to us, what do they mean by a secular society? I have many nephews and nieces who say they're atheists, and I laugh heartily because they haven't a clue what they really mean. And I say to them, if you really are serious about being an atheist, you have to study Buddhism, you have to study the Quran, you have to understand the Bible, you have to be able to dialogue with the Chinese. I said, being an atheist is hard work, and you better know it. It's not something that you can say, oh, I'm an atheist. So we do need to dialogue at this particular exciting time, and it's springtime. We do need to dialogue with every member of our society. And if we are Christian, we need to welcome and to listen to those who are not Christian, but may have a point of view that we need to understand. So I would say that this is a great time for dialogue between civil society and its component parts. There has been mentioned tonight, and it's beautiful really, I was very conscious of it, that this is the feast of St. Brigid. And we have a very old Christianity in this country. People don't realize that St. Brigid was the founder of Celtic monasticism in this country. She actually founded it. And it is no accident that the happiest monastery in Ireland appears to be Glenstall Abbey. It seems to me that it has the best of modern life and technology allied to the great values of that Christian monasticism. And Brigid herself, she's noted for hospitality, she's noted for healing, for her love of nature. And in Mary Condon's beautiful essay yesterday in the Irish Times, she was the weaver. And Mary says in that article that weaving is a very old craft in the world. The women and the men who do it, they are peacemakers. And I would add to that my own little kind of piece of lore about feminism. Brigid, of course, was the epitome of that equal sharing in ministry. She was a bishop, and she exercised the jurisdiction of a bishop in Kildare. She never went outside her jurisdiction, but she was actually consecrated as a bishop, and it didn't seem to bother people at that time. So just in conclusion, I want to say that I thank you again, Catherine, and Age and Opportunity. And it seems to me that this inaugural discussion, sponsored by Age and Opportunity, gives us all a chance to talk about how to reconstruct the founding aspirations of our state. And I would suggest that we discard the obsolete and the illusory. To know what to discard is to clear our vision so that we can together, all of us, no exclusion, create attainable goals. And I'd love to develop this, but I'm not going to do it tonight, and I hope somebody will do it at some time. I think we badly need to reinvent our national identity.
Thanks.